another thing that I have lined up on like the docket for Tuesday or Wednesday, and someone was asking me like what, like the question was something along the lines of, the kid was younger and he's like, can you explain why Carey Price in his prime was so good when you compare him to the best goalie of today, Vasilevsky? They're nothing alike. And I thought, like, I was like, hey, that's like, first, that's sort of a dumb question. But then if you don't know, it's not a dumb question, because if you're taught to believe that there is an optimal style of goaltending, and you'll see that so many people will be like, play like this guy. This guy's the best. You got to play like him. And I really I'm a strong believer in not, I think it's good to try to play like other goalies, but to your limits. I don't play like others. It's
Yes.
good to watch other goalies and see what they're doing, but don't try to play like them. Try to play like yourself. And so
Yeah.
that was what the video was talking about, where Carey Price in his prime was the best because he was the best. He wasn't the best because of his style, which he changed several times. He wasn't the best because of his gear, which he changed many times. He It was because he was the best goalie. Just like Vasilevsky right now, he's the best goalie not because of his style, because he objectively stops more pucks. It doesn't matter how you do that as long as you do it. And I think that that's an important concept. And so that's why one of my first really big viral videos was the "You Are Not Vasilevsky" video, because I just told kids, you're not. Like, so many people message me and go, I try to play like Saros. And I go, why? Like, well,
Why?
I like him. Well, are you UC Saros? Well, no. Like, I can promise you right now that you cannot skate like UC Saros at all. So why are you playing like him? But you got to play like you. If you're not a
You
good
can learn
skater,
from them.
yeah, you can learn. You can see, okay, UC Saros is super aggressive this time, and then you go and you do it, and you realize, okay, I'm not a fast skater, and I got burned because I'm trying to play like UC Saros. Okay, maybe I need to play slightly deeper, or maybe my hands need to change. But when you try to be a mirror image of someone who you're not, you're going to get so frustrated because you're like, I'm doing everything Vasilevsky's doing, and how come it's not working for me? And so there's just this like cookie cutter idea that all that NHL goalies are the same or have all these character. The only characteristic that NHL goalies have that is consistent is that they're very, very good goalies. Some are better at tracking than others. Some are better at positioning. Some are more flexible than others. Some have a narrow stance, wide stance, but they're all very good, and they're good in spite of their flaws.
Yeah. No, it's funny. So actually, we broke down UC Star Wars' game on Thursday. So I watched a lot of him on Thursday with our crew of goalies. So that's funny how you brought him up as an example. But I think I think you're 100% right. You want to learn from goalies in the NHL because they're the best in the world. So why wouldn't you want to learn from the best in the world, right? But for if you're a younger goalie and you want to play in the NHL, you have to understand that you have to be better than them to get their job. So you can't be like them because at best you'll be just like them. They'll be just as good as they are. So you won't take their job. There's only what, like 62 jobs in the NHL, 64. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like there's not a lot of spots there. And the thing is, if you play the exact same as them, at best you'll be just as good as they are. But then it's not good enough at that point. And the best in the 70s, the best goalie in the world was Tricek, right? Like, if you're a young kid in the 70s looking at Tricek play, you try to imitate him, and then you get to the 80s, and now the game's gone past you, and you're playing the same as him. That's probably a bad idea, right? You could probably learn from him because, like, we actually over COVID, I watched the Summit Series just for fun. I've never seen it before, and I the oldest hockey I'd ever see was the 90s hockey. So it's cool to see what goalies were doing in the 70s. And one thing that Tricek was doing better than Ken Dryden and the other guys is he was actually playing deeper than Ken Dryden and all those guys. And he was shuffling so much better because he was actually able to stay on angles. He was actually able to shuffle. So he was able to maintain angle and body positioning. So it's kind of funny because you had Dryden who was prioritizing depth, and then he struggled to maintain angle and body positioning. And you had Tricek that's playing lower, who's able to stay on angle, maintain body position by shuffling, and that made him objectively so much better than everybody else because he's always in a position to make a save. So instead of imitating Trichak, what you could have done now those days is realize like, oh, he's able to stay on an angle and get body position and maintain body positioning because he's a little bit deeper. Well, maybe I can try to play around with this. You're not going to be playing like him. You're just learning from him, right? And you can't keep moving that up as you go. And one thing, like, you know, going back to the Carey Price and Vasilevsky example, I observed them quite a bit when they played. They played against each other. What was it, 2 years ago in the Stanley Cup Finals or
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
Or yeah, something like that. Yeah. And it was funny because it was, to me, it was like seeing two goalies from different generations playing. Like Carey Price was the best guy in the, let's say, 2010 era, and then you have the 2020 era where Vasilevsky is the top guy, and you could see that Price was a little bit more compact, utilizing his elbows and shoulders a bit more. Vasilevsky is a little bit more hand oriented, like things like that. You can start noticing, but it doesn't mean that what Carey Price does doesn't necessarily work. It's just like you can obviously kind of see like, hey, maybe when a puck's in tighter proximity, I prefer to use my elbows instead of using my gloves, right? Or vice versa. But yeah, you don't want to get caught up in that idea of imitating guys. You want to learn from them, because at the end of the day, I can guarantee you that Carey Price and Vasilevsky are not saying like, oh, I want to play like this guy, right? They're
Yeah.
trying to make themselves better, right? So if that's what the best people, and I'm sure that's what all of them have in common, you know, like. We know Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill pretty well because they're from Calgary. We've worked with them since they're little guys, and we've pushed them since, I don't know, like they're 12, 13, and they look completely different. Like they don't look anything alike, but they're coached by the same people. So why is that, right? It's like, well, because they're different people, and different things work for them. So I think kids have to figure out like it's okay to look up to people. It's okay to try to learn from them, but don't try to become them because you're not. And if you want to be the best, you have to be the best version of yourself. And that's just what it is at the bottom line.